Another question we get asked often is, can we wrap dry hay? And of course, the answer is yes. You can wrap dry hay. And in fact, wrapping dry hay, it's a growing technique or trend in North America. People will wrap dry hay for weather preservation, and also it's a cheap insurance against drought. So if you have a really, really good year with just the right amount of rain and you have an excessive amount of dry hay, a lot of people would just put it outside without any shade or tarp or anything. And the weather basically over a year is gonna basically rot or damage about 4 to 6 inches of the outer layers of the bale. That 4 to 6 inch doesn't seem a lot when you look at it, but it's about 20 to 25% of the total volume of the bale. And when you factor the fuel, the labor, the cost of equipment, and the time you invest to produce that bale, each bale costs you about $30 a bale. Now lose 25% of that, that's a lot of money. It's about $7, $8 of money you already invest in time into producing that bale. And so wrapping dry hay is basically, it's an extra $2 a bale roughly, and then you can save or preserve that $7 or avoid that $7 loss that you have throughout the winter. So dry hay, it will look as green as the day it was baled if you bale it right away, same as you will do with baleage. Should you put more or less layers? The answer is about the same as if you do baleage. The real thing is, when you wrap dry hay, it's not because it is dry hay that the rodent or predators would not go and start puncturing the films. So putting as many layers as you do with baleage is recommended. However, dry hay, you know, the moisture cannot be as high as baleage. When you do baleage, you try to be above 35% moisture, which we will consider dry for baleage. We're looking more for 50% moisture. If you do dry hay, you want to be 22% or less, and 22% is the limit. Between 22 and 35, this is what we call the no man's land. You don't want to be there. Your dry hay is not going to look good. So try to be as dry as possible, and then you wrap it right away. But dry hay need to breathe. So when you wrap dry hay, you have to vent the tube. So instead of 30% losses if you don't wrap it, by venting the tube and by doing that, we saw the result. You will lose only maybe 2 or 3% of your crop, but it's still a cheap investment. And so when you vent the tube, you basically have to make a 2 feet long incision on the top of the bale at each bale that you done on your tube. And that will allow the dry bale to basically sweat out the moisture that is still inside the bales, and you should get a really, really good results. So regarding the venting of the tube, a lot of people will think, oh, I'll make the cut on the side of the bale, so if it rains, the water won't get in. The truth is that we tried it several times. If you do a cut for venting on the side, yes, the rain won't get in, but then when you have the bale sweating in the first 28 days, all the moisture will get caught on the top of the bales and remain there because the top is sealed, and that water will basically generate mushroom and mold you don't want to have. So the best result we get is when we do the incision on the top of the tube. So basically at each bale joint, I'm going to make a 2 feet incision. Make sure to go through all the layers. I'm going to make a 2 feet incision. So if it rains, yes, the water will fall in, but it will be a tiny amount. But the good thing is when it's going to be hot, then the moisture could go out. And with that way of cutting or venting the line, you will lose only 2 or 3% instead of losing 30% if you don't wrap it at all.